Hello everybody, this is Pyra, and today is June 18th, and we have another update from the Final Fantasy XIV Lodestone website. So this one is kind of an important one regarding the launch of the newest expansion, Dawntrail, which is set to launch early access next Friday, June 28th. So we're 10 days away from early access, and the Final Fantasy XIV team has put out a long Lodestone update regarding congestion during Dawntrail's launch. So we will read this first, kind of section summary area, and then get into some of the nitty-gritty details and what these details mean. First off starts with, we would like to share information regarding the congestion that may occur during the early access period and release of Dawntrail. With the launch of a new expansion, we are expecting far more simultaneous logins compared to usual. In light of the congestion that occurred during the launch of Endwalker, we have taken precautionary measures such as expanding our data centers and adding new worlds. However, our player base has continued to grow since then, and a large number of our players will be playing for extended periods during the launch of the new expansion, which could result in worlds reaching their login caps and therefore longer login queues. To alleviate our players' concerns, we would like to share some details regarding situations that may arise during early access and the launch of Dawntrail, as well as our countermeasures against congestion. So, if you were here for the launch of Endwalker, you know it was catastrophe. I think at maximum, I saw like 4+ hour queues, probably more than that. It was pretty insane and wild. So, as you've seen with some of our live letter updates recently, or Lodestone updates, I should say, recently, they have been adding more worlds. They have been adding more measures to try to prevent such an extreme congestion period at launch. There will always be queues and congestion. You even see queues now in just your regular play, but usually they're fairly quick. These ones will definitely be longer, but they are doing some things in the meantime to help relieve some of that congestion. So what I'm going to do is go through all of these. There are a lot of sections, just to breeze through really quick. There are a lot of different sections. Some of the details are very minuscule. I will recommend, if you have specific information, to go read through this Lodestone update. However, we're going to just cover a little bit of everything. The first thing is regarding the login queues. So if you don't know what the login queue is, when your world reaches a maximum amount of players that can log in at a time, you will be put in a login queue. Even if the queue doesn't appear to be counting down, the queue is still working. All they're asking right here is just please be patient and understand that the process is working. They're sorry for the inconvenience, but this login queue is placed to help people get in smoothly and without crashing the game. When a login queue is in place, people who own the full version of the game do get prioritized. Any free trial characters will be able to log in after the queue is cleared. However, they go to the back of the line. This allows them to prioritize the paying customers, and it is usually something that really will only happen for the first probably 2 to 4 weeks of the expansion. Just as people are coming in for the new content, there will be more priority and need for people who pay for their paid version of the game. This next section is a big one. It is regarding the restrictions on data center, travel, and world visit systems. So, because of the expectation of congestion, the following restrictions are going to be in place between patch 7.0, so that is the release of Dawntrail, in patch 7.01 or patch 7.05 at the latest, depending on how congested the worlds still are. And this is to allow prioritization logins for homeworld residents. So what this is going to mean is you will not be able to do your normal data center travel like you normally do. I know a lot of people, especially now with the state of things, a lot of people travel in the North American data center, travel over to Aether for some party finders or some raiding. That is going to be unavailable at the start, and that is to help prevent extra congestion in certain areas. So just a short thing about each data center, the Japanese data center, the number of non-home world characters that can be logged in will be limited, and when a world has reached the maximum number of visiting characters, non-home world characters that are logged out on a world will be unable to log in, and they will have to go to their home world. For North American Data Center, Aether, Primal, and Crystal will be completely unavailable for travel unless it is within your home world. However, Dynamis, which we know is one of the newer servers, one of the more quiet servers in North American Data Center, Dynamis will still be available for travel, and the maximum number of traveling characters will be increased compared to usual. The newly added worlds in the Dynamis data center are still relatively unpopulated and may be helpful login destinations when other worlds are experiencing high congestion. So that is a really good thing that they're adding in there, especially because Dynamis is underutilized right now, and if your world is a very high populated, very high congested world, you will still have somewhere to go that will hopefully relieve you of congestion. Now, before I go on to the next data center, just one quick note on that. Please remember, if you are looking at going to Dynamis, for instance, if you are someone like myself on Primal and you're like, oh, I want to go on Dynamis because it's less congested, you will lose some of your buffs. So you will not have access to your retainers. You will not have access to any free company buffs. So just keep that in mind while you're over there. It is something that might be really good if you're trying to get through the story or if you're trying to get through certain content. However, you will not have access to certain things like your retainers and your free company buffs. Now, moving on to European Data Center, Chaos and Light will be unavailable for travel. However, Shadow will still be open to travel with probationary worlds, which may be helpful to lock in if you are experiencing high congestion. So one really neat thing that I'm seeing here too is the Oceania data centers. So it looks like you will still be able to go from Japanese data center, North American data center, and European data center to Oceania data center still, even in Dawntrail, which is actually pretty cool. If you do maybe have friends on a separate data center that you want to meet up with, it looks like Oceania's still going to be open for that purpose, which is going to be really neat. As far as world visit systems, again, very same thing as what we said with the data center travel. Pretty much same things apply. Most of the world visit systems will be unavailable, except for, of course, on Shadow Data Center, Dynamis, and then Japan has the restriction of the number of non-home world characters that can be logged on will be limited, and the Oceania Data Center world visit system will also remain available as usual. And then this final note at the very end of this section is just talking about how characters who are visiting another world prior to patch 7.0 will still be able to return to their home world regardless of the traveling restrictions. That is something that I believe they will always keep. You will always be able to go back to your home world. You won't get kicked out of your home world because you went somewhere else. So if you are currently visiting another data center, another world before the servers go down 2 days before patch 7.0, you can still get back to your home world. However, and I will say however here, it says in bold, if your character is currently visiting a world that will have traveling restrictions, we advise returning them home before the maintenance begins, as the restrictions will lower your login priority. So please, if you are trying to get on for first day early access, get back to your home world. Get back to your home world. If you haven't watched my tips and tricks video, I will link that below as well. You will also want to make sure that you are in a low congested zone on top of making sure that you're in your home world. So keep that in mind. Now, the next section here is regarding playing on other worlds during congestion. I won't go over this in extreme detail because a lot of this is just the same information kind of repeated and reworded, just so that if people have a specific question, they can kind of find the exact information they're looking on. Pretty much just talking about high congested worlds expected on everything but Oceania. Just talking about how you can travel to said worlds and that they recommend going to some of the less crowded worlds during the high congestion if you would like less queue times. Of course, if you want to travel, if you go into your character selection menu, select the character in which you want to log in on, you can say visit another world server, visit another data center, and that is a way to head to some of these less congested worlds. And it does state here, while there will be restrictions based on the world visit system or data center travel, you will still be able to progress in main scenario quests, as well as find parties and participate in duties through the duty finder, so we could recommend considering this method depending on your situation. So again, as I mentioned, if you are someone who really is looking for those free company buffs for your EXP, or maybe your teleports, or maybe you're someone who wants to make sure that you are on and able to access your retainers, do not use this type of method. This method will not work for you. However, if you are someone that just wants to get to the story as soon as possible or get into the game as soon as possible with the least amount of congestion, this might be an option that will suit your playstyle. And then, of course, if you have already traveled somewhere else, maybe you traveled to a less congested data center or world and you want to go home, if you go back to your character screen on the main login screen, right-click if you are a keyboard and mouse player, and go to return to home world, you will go back to your home world. The next section is regarding character creation. I don't really foresee many people needing to make a new character in this time period, but either way, they're asking you to try to create new characters outside of peak congestion times when the world is less crowded. So my recommendation just right off the bat, don't do it. If you're gonna create a second character, maybe an alt for whatever reason, do it either now, do it before Dawntrail, or try to do it down the road after the congestion has freed up. And then, of course, there always will be this server status page where you can actually see how congested the worlds are if they're congested. So definitely just a note about character creation there. The next couple notes are regarding errors. So if you do get logout errors while you were logged into the game during Dawntrail, this is what they mean. This is a really good reference for going forward. I've definitely seen both of these, or all three of these errors before, so it is something to keep in mind. Maybe bookmark this page so that once you are in the game, if you are having an error message, you will know why you are having the error, what it is coming from. So the TLDR about error 2002, this is to prevent large crashing of the servers due to extreme traffic heavy loads. So if you receive this, it is to help prevent the servers from being completely unstable. They're hoping that this won't happen. However, it could. There's always a chance that this could happen. So they are just saying that if you have this error code pop up and you get disconnected from the lobby server, you will have your queue for about a minute and you can try to re-enter the queue at your same space. However, if a certain amount of time passes before you return, you will probably lose your place in queue. So keep that in mind, that issue. You can always try to log right back in and you may get your spot back in the queue. However, it is not guaranteed. And then the second error code that they mention is the 90K, the dreaded 90K. Everybody knows about the 90K, the 90002 and the 90006. And this is regarding to during gameplay. The 2002 was when logging in. And this is a general network disconnection. Unfortunately, usually what happens when you get a 90K is that you get completely removed from the game. And that means that you will have to go back into the queue. And that is just something that is an unfortunate error that happens sometimes when playing these games. It pretty much tells you it's because of a network connection issue, so they advise that you try to use a wired connection instead of Wi-Fi, and then just maybe make sure that you troubleshoot your internet connectivity issues, just in case there are any. And this next big one right here, this is a small section that I think it is one of the most important. It was also in my tips and tricks video. It is automatic logout. And I'm saying this loud because not enough people remember this. So when we get high congested times like the launch of a new expansion, they will add this automatic lockout to the game. Log out, not lockout. Kind of log out to the game. If you are inactive for 30 minutes, you will be logged out automatically. If you are AFK, if your game has not received any inputs for 30 minutes, you are getting logged out. They do this to free up space in the servers for people who are actively playing. So, how do you prevent this? Don't do it. that is simply the easiest way. If you know you're going to have to not touch your computer for over half an hour, you might as well log out anyways. If you have to maybe make lunch, make dinner, go grab something quick, know that you have, I'd say on the safe side, 29 minutes or less to do that quickly before you have to return to the game, or you will have to log back into the game. And now the next section is just about peak congestion times. This is just their estimated congestion statuses that they think based on typical activity from the past. So Japanese, North American, European, and Oceania data centers will have their own kind of times that they predict will have the most amount of congestion. I would say look at these here. Consider early access taking place during the weekend. People are going to be on all weekend most likely, so just try to keep that in mind when you want to play. If your ideal time frame for playing these games is during any of these time windows, and if you have the availability, maybe try to adjust your playing window if you're someone who has access to play on kind of off hours, if you will. That might be the most favorable for you, but just know that these windows are projected to be the most congested in the world. Now, some preventative measures against server crashes, and we have seen this before. To prevent world servers from crashing, the number of characters that can move between in-game areas with certain time frame will be limited. And you might get a display that says unable to move areas due to congestion when entering or attempting to enter a different area. If this area is displayed, they ask that you just try to change areas again or wait maybe a little while before trying again. Pretty much, they're going to just make sure that one area doesn't get so overcrowded that it helps crash the server. So you kind of have little cues everywhere sprinkled throughout the game. The next section here is wait times for instanced content. So there is a possibility that certain instance content, such as duties required to progress through quests, may experience congestion. All I can think about when I read this is Raban Savage. Raban Ultimate? I don't even know. If you were there for Stormblood, you know. If you know, you know. There was a time where people had to form a line in-game to try to progress through one of the major main scenario quest instances. It was a day. So these things are still going to happen. Hopefully not as detrimental as the Raban experience was, but they will try to stagger player traffic during these main scenario progressions so that we will have less issues of breaking the game. Now, instances of new areas. During the periods immediately after Dawntrail's early access and launch, areas added in Dawntrail or visited during the Dawntrail main scenario will be heavily trafficked. In order to allow more players to enter these areas, they are going to implement several instances of the same area. So this is nothing new. We see this currently. They actually use this more and more, I feel like, every expansion, where if there is a patch with a very heavily trafficked area for main scenario quests, they will add multiple instances per map. So the example that they used here was Urquapacha 1, 2, and 3. If you are at a zone and you need to, for some reason, maybe find your friend on the other map of or another instance of the same map, you can usually right-click the crystal and go to travel to a different instanced area, and you can find the different instances there. And again, this is just another one of the many things that they're implementing to try to prevent overpopulation in one area. And the last thing here too is regarding maybe a friend or a party member. You will typically always, if you are in a party with somebody at the time of going to a zone, you will typically most likely be put to the same instanced area. You may be split up. It's going to depend on the player cap. However, you will get kind of a priority in moving together if that is possible. And now that is pretty much a wrap up. The last thing that they say, and this is actually a really good tip as well, support services during early access and immediately after launch. The dev and operations team will be doing as much as they can in this crucial first week of the game. And so they say to keep posted on their Lodestone announcements and their official X channels. Saying X instead of Twitter is just gross to me. But if you go to at FF_XIV_EN on X and at FFXIV_news_EN on X, you will have the latest developments. Of course, that is for English. You will have the latest updates and developments when it comes to anything in the game. Of course, as well, I will also promote, come to my Discord channel or watch my YouTube videos. I will also keep you as updated and as informed as possible. So that is it regarding all of the information that has been provided so far about Congestion coming with Dawntrail's launch. Of course, it's kind of the Wild West sometimes when it comes to some of these expansion launches. However, I do feel pretty confident that Final Fantasy XIV team has put a lot more time and resources into preventing issues like we did get for Endwalker's launch. So definitely keep these tips in mind, keep all of this information in mind. I know it gets very stressful when it comes to the new expansion and when it comes to long queue times and server lag and crashes and issues, but please take a look through this if you haven't already and just kind of get a little bit of information so that when you are in game, you have a little bit more preparedness for what is to come with the Congestion for the launch. And thank you so much for watching. If you want more Final Fantasy XIV news and information, definitely feel free to hit like on the video and subscribe to the channel. I try to update everybody as soon as possible with the Final Fantasy XIV Lodestone news and updates and more. And if you want to hang out with me a little bit more, I have links in my description to join our Discord if you want to stay in the know and to chat. And I stream live about 6 days a week, Final Fantasy XIV, everything from news updates and casual information all the way through Savage and Ultimate rating. And without further ado, we will see you in game. Bye!